Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 5th EUGLOH Annual Student Research Conference. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about the organization for these 3 days. Today we have a plenary session related to research skills. And after the coffee break, you will have the poster session. So students that will be presenting a poster, you have to stay during the section in case other students have questions or if you are required to explain your research. For tomorrow and Thursday, you will have to pay attention to the group. I think that we have told you about that. You can stay in group A or group B. For tomorrow morning, you will have to attend another plenary session, and you will have also the oral presentation. Some students will have oral presentations on Wednesday and others on Thursday. In the afternoons, on Wednesday and Thursday, in this part is important the group. Tomorrow, group A, you will have the teamwork activities, and group B will have the visit in Alcalá city. And on Thursday, group B will have the teamwork activity with Dr. Antonio Mendez, and group A will have to attend the visit. On Thursday, for the oral presentations, we have 2 parallel sessions. Session A will be in Salón de Grados, and session B in room 17. Also, the buildings for tomorrow and Thursday will be in the Faculty of Law. Not in this building, it's another one. You have the direction also in the program. And for the last day, the closing reception will be in the Rectorate building, where we have the visit this morning and lunch. Then I would like to introduce you to the 3 professors that will be doing the welcome session. Dr. Francisco Javier de la Mata, Vice-Rector for Research and Transfer. Dr. Julio Cañero Serrano, Vice-Rector for International Relations. And Francisco Javier Salas, Director of the Doctoral School. So I pass the floor to Francisco Javier de la Mata.
Thank you, Irene. Good afternoon to everyone. Julio, Javier. So it's a pleasure for me to be today here, and I would like, first of all, to give you the welcome to the University of Alcalá and the welcome to this annual Student Research Conference. Particularly, I want to give the welcome to these people that visit us from abroad, and hope if this is the first time that you visit our university and our city, that you have a really nice time, that you can enjoy the beautiful city that we have here in Alcalá de Henares, and also the beautiful patrimony that we have in the university. Let me thank to all the people that has been involved in the organization of this meeting, and particularly to Irene, that I know that has been working very hard trying to everything be ready for this conference. I want to be very brief. I want to leave time to the people that is with me in the table at this time, and also because I will continue with you after this opening session. So again, thank you very much for being here, for share this conference with us, and welcome to our university. Thank you. So now I pass the floor to my friend Julio Cañero, Vice President for International Relations and the leader of the EUGLOH Alliance here in our university.
Okay, thank you, Javier, Irene, and thank you so much to those who are visiting us here. I don't know, how many of you are your first time here at Alcalá? Well, so some of you already know, probably because you are students from our university. So thank you so much for being with us, especially to those, as Javier has just mentioned, who come from different universities in the EUGLOH Alliance. Only by chance, when I was coming here, I came across someone from the University of Tromsø. She's sitting back. So yeah, we were at Tromsø last year. We also visited Lund. We have also visited Szeged, and hopefully we will be with you in Novi Sad next year. So it is a pleasure, and it's very good. This is the spirit, the real spirit of the Alliance, to put people together. I mean, not only for the mobility of students, but also the mobility of researchers, because you're no longer students, you're now researchers, which is a different category. So for us, seeing the possibility of putting together future professors and future leaders of research teams is the essence of what EUGLOH is. Not only mobility, but something beyond that idea of mobility. That's why when they say, no, EUGLOH is something that belongs to international relations. No, it's something that is transversal, that hopefully it helps to create a European alliance from bottom up, not only at the international relation level, but beyond that. And having you here at the University of Alcalá, as I said, it's a great honor. If you have the chance, please visit the buildings of our university, because the downtown is recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. So it's worth seeing. This building is from the 17th century. So sometimes those who work here at the university, we don't realize that we are lecturing in rooms that had been using for that purpose for centuries. So please, if you have the chance, visit those historic buildings. Also enjoy our food, enjoy our wine. Moderation, please. With moderation, please. But enjoy the city of Alcalá. It's a really beautiful city. It's a very nice place now with Christmas. It is true that we don't have snow, sorry, but we have a wonderful weather, I guess, that you can enjoy. And try to take the most of these conferences. You are now having the opening lecture by Professor Javier de la Mata. He is very humble, and he won't recognize it, but he's one of the best researchers we have at the university. He's not only the Vice-Rector for research and knowledge transfer, but at the same time, he's leading a team that is one of the most prolific teams in the university. So everything he can tell you about research skills, please pay attention to it. And from my side, anything else? I'm just very happy that you're here with us. I hope that you enjoyed this stay, and please let us know if there is something that we can better, because we will try our best to do it. So thank you so much, and welcome again to the University of Alcalá.
I told you that he was my friend. So now have the floor our director of our doctoral school, Professor Javier Sales.
Good evening, and welcome to the doctoral school of the University of Alcalá, and welcome to the 5th EUGLOH Annual Student Research Conference. During the next days, this event offers you the opportunity to share their PhD scientific research work with the students of the different universities. We hope that you will find the conference useful for your research careers. During these 3 days, you will share several academic activities, but also social and cultural activities. We hope you enjoy all of them. Thank you for your participation in this event, and I would also like to thank the people in charge of the organization, especially Irene. We hope these days will be a good beginning of the Christmas holidays that we start next week. then enjoy your stay in Alcalá. We start the conference with a plenary session of research skill. The speaker is Javier de la Mata, Vice-Rector of Research and Transfer of the University of Alcalá. Javier is a full professor in chemistry at our university. In the last 10 years, his activity has focused mainly on the development of dendritic nanosystem for application in biomedicine. He has participated in numerous research projects funded by national and international organizations, which have resulted in more than 150 publications in high-impact international journals. Javier, thank you for your participation in this conference, and then we leave you to start the first session.
Okay, so I'm sorry because I had to talk from the chair and the table because I don't have a microphone to be on foot. So thanks a lot for inviting me to talk you about research skills. So don't take this talk, this conference like something definitive. It's only some informal conversation trying to tell you about some things that I consider that are important when you are thinking about research. So probably there is other people that think that there are other skills that are also important and should be taken in consideration. Let me make a short introduction, just trying to go to the point where I want to arrive. So there is several concepts that are pretty similar and that we use very often, and I don't know if everyone is sure about what is the meaning of each of these concepts. We are talking about science, research, experimental development, innovation, transfer. So there is concept, of course, all of them are related, but they are not the same, and it is useful to know which mean any of these concepts. If we are talking about science, so we wondering about what is science, we can define science like the set of knowledge obtained through observation and reasoning, systematically structured and from which general principles and laws with predictive capacity and experimentally verifiable are deducted. I'm not going to go in detail in this, but any word in this definition, it is important. So science is systematic, is reasoning, is predictive, so we have to pay attention to each word. But what is much more important is that the science is the result of scientific research. And the scientific research has to be conducted using the scientific method. So, and this gives us some clue about the concept that I was talking before. So scientific research is the source of science, and the scientific method is the way which we should make research. What are the characteristic features of science? And it is important to define our word later. Science should be systematic. Science should be rational, because allows the researcher to form a reasoned image of phenomena and their properties. And the science should be objective, and this is very important, because the researcher must faithfully reflect reality. We don't have to reflect what we want or what we will desire that our results be. We have to reflect the reality of our result, of our research, when we are working in our fields. But then what is research? So research is the set of creative words that are going or are allowing us to increase the knowledge. And be aware that we are talking about creative words, and this is important. There are many types of words. All of them are are very nice, but if I am talking about research, I am talking about a creative work that is helping me to increase my knowledge. And in the last part of this definition that was given by Manuel Frascati, say that this knowledge should help us to devise new applications. And this put us in the clue of the two last concepts that I mentioned at the beginning. So if this knowledge has to make me devise new application, this put me in the way of the innovation and transfer. What types of knowledge I can get when I am working? Well, basically, there is two types of knowledge. The empiric, that is the knowledge that I acquire as random, without methods, only by personal observation. And the scientific method, that is, I hope, the method that all of us follow in our everyday work. And this scientific method is based on observation, description, explanation, etc. So this is important for me because this is what is going to define the skill that I had to acquire or to develop later. What implies research? So all of you, all of us are working in research, but research is not only being in your lab or being in the library, doing the project, the research project that you have devised with your advisor or with your team workers. So research implies many things. At the beginning, implying to think. You have to think in new ideas, in how to develop those ideas, but you need to ask questions about reality, ask questions about how you can improve the state of the art of the subject in which you are working. And research implies to explore how to give answer to that questions that you are wondering with the ideas that you think at the beginning. But here, don't finish your work. So maybe many people think that this is research. So I have a good idea, I put this idea to work, and then I observe the result that I get. But no, I have to do much more things when I am doing research. I had to get and processing experimental data, and I cannot do it in any way. I had to do it observing good practice. I will talk a little bit more about this later. So I need to get data, but I need to get this data observing always good practice in my work. And here I don't finish. I had to continue with my work because I had to plan. I had to plan how to conduct the research during all the project. But I had to manage. I had to manage many things in a research project. I had to manage the scientific concepts, but I had to manage the economic issues around the project. I had to manage the human resources that are going to be involved in the project. And I had to manage the dissemination of the research results. And all these things are going to oblige me to develop different skills that we will see later. In addition, we have performed our research and we have our research result. We don't finish our work there. We have to think a little bit further because we have to transfer the results to the society. And we have to know what are the ways in which I can transfer this result to the society. And I had to disseminate my result. If I work in a very interesting project and nobody knows about it, that project doesn't exist. I need to communicate to the people my result. And not only the people that is working in the same area that I am doing, I need to communicate the result to the general public, to the society in general. And when I transfer my result, many times I have to observe how to deal with the intellectual and industrial property issues, and I will talk a little bit about this later. But even with all this, as you will see, research is a complex work because I have to attend to many things. I didn't finish my work here. I had to do something else. I had to observe ethical principles in my work. That means that I have to show that I am working with scientific integrity. And also, I have to observe gender and equity issues. And all of this has to be involved inside my research project. So when you are doing now a PhD thesis, you are not only working in a very interesting results in a particular subject. You have to take in consideration all these issues because all of these are related to research. What are the types of research? So many people say that research is divided in basic research and applied research. I have to confess that I don't like this division. I don't like it at all. In my opinion, there is also two types of research, but it's good research or bad research. Because if you want to apply the results of your research, you have to make first a basic study of the subject that you are working with. So, well, here you have two examples of how basic research becomes to be applied research probably after a little bit of time. So then, what do I need to investigate? Because I need many things. It's not only that I want to work, and that's it. I need many things. I need ideas. If I don't have ideas, I cannot start to work in research. But I need funding. That is very important. If I don't have funding to conduct my research, I cannot work on it. I need infrastructures. This is extremely important. We are fighting every day, trying to convince authorities, administration, that we need infrastructure. If we don't have good infrastructure, we cannot compete in research with other people in other parts of the world that have better equipment than we can have. Probably the most important thing, or one of the most important things, we need people. We need human resources. Probably in some discipline, maybe in humanities, the research is quite individual. But in the most of the cases, to make research, you need a team. And then, so you need these human resources. You need regulation. Even when we always are complaining about it, we need regulation. We need to know how we had to make the research. And we need to know what are the rules where my work has to be included. As I told you before, we need communication. We need to communicate our result. I'm sorry for insisting too much in this, but if nobody knows in which you are working, you are not working in nothing. So people doesn't care about it because doesn't know it. We need to know how to transfer our research results. That is related with the previous one, particularly because in many cases we think that what we are doing has to be good for something. And then I had to fight for transfer my result to that goal, no? And as I told you, I need scientific integrity to work in research. I had to be honest in my work. So I choose this picture just to think a little bit about how the research is changing or progressing with the time. If we are thinking about 100 years ago, and we can see the three pictures in the upper part of the screen, we can observe several things. First, research was a matter of men. Only men were working in research. The other thing is research was a quite individual job. People made research individually. And the third one is that they didn't have almost nothing to make research. They didn't have equipment, they didn't have too much resources. If we go down, we can have a picture of what could be research today. First thing, now, research is not just a question of men. So now it's a world where we are working, women and men together. The other thing in the middle is that most of us now have a very complex equipment that helps us in our daily work. So that means that we don't need only to know about my subject, but I need to know also how to use this equipment that every day is more complicated and also give me better information. And the third one is, or tell us something that I was telling before. Research doesn't finish in my lab, doesn't finish in my department. I have to communicate the research to the society. And not only that, I have to try to pass the passion for research to the new generations. So, and that is also important, and that will be one of the things that probably gives you more reward when you think about the things that you are doing in your research. So after this, then, what are research skills and what skill I should develop for my work? But what are research skills? Are abilities, qualities, competence, and values that a researcher must develop to carry out research effectively. We know now what we need to make research. So then we have to think about what abilities, qualities we have to develop to do that. And why are important the research skills? But they are important because will help us to produce a high quality research, because they help us to work in a research team, to increase our critical thinking, to take decisions, to improve the communication, to observe ethical guidelines, to transfer research results to society, to manage public or private funding, and to train new researchers. And what types of research skill you should have? So I put here some of them, and as you will see, are not few. So this means that we have to develop many things to make an effective research. I divide it in 6 categories. The first one, the academic and scientific skills. Of course, usually people working in research is intelligent, is people that is well organized and knows how to make a plan, has critical thinking and innovative capacity. But it's not only that. We have to know much more than things. The other important skill is learning skill. We have to be ready to keep learning during all our life. So our job of our study doesn't finish with our PhD thesis. If you are working in research, you will have to be learning every day. We have to develop leadership skills, and as we will see later, doesn't mean that you have to be a big boss in research. You have to develop leadership skill in any role that you are having in your work every day. You have to develop communication skills. That is very important, because you have to know how to present your results, and that depends to the public that you are contacting with. So it's not the same if you are going to a meeting, a specialized meeting in your discipline, that if you go to, for example, to a school to talk with children, and you need to try to convince the children that the work that you are doing is interesting, and that could be a good idea for them in the future. You have to develop transfer skill, and I would like to stay a little bit later in this part, and you have to develop ethics skill. That is something that worry us quite much in these days, because sure you are hearing a lot of things, a lot of histories about research that in the 99% of the cases doesn't occur, but sometimes happens, and we have to be ready to detect it, those cases, and also we have to be ready to not don't fall in those behaviors. Sorry, is something that we have to have in mind. And the other thing, and it's related with the skill, is probably I'm sure in all your universities you have a research ethical committee that many of you probably doesn't know how it works. And sometimes it is absolutely necessary that you send your research project to the research ethical committee for evaluation before start the work. So that we will talk a little bit about this. So in the case of leader skill, I will stay only a little bit in the role in a research team, but we could be also talking for a very long time about management. Management is something crucial in the research. You are very young, but people that have more time working in research think that the management is something that they don't need to do, because they have to be focused only in the study of their subject. And this is not true. The management is very important, and as I told you, management is not only to know how to conduct your project. You have to manage economic issues, human resources issues, etc. And the other important thing, particularly for you, but I don't have time today to go deeply in this, is you need to know how to maximize your research results, because you are going to need these results to progress in your academic or your professional career. And there is way to maximize this result, no? So for example, how to apply for funding, so how to write a project if I want to get funding, how to learn to exploit my research result, how to learn to manage my time, but you are going to have a talk about this, so I'm not going to go any more about that. Transfer skill, for me, are very important. So, well, you say now I'm Vice President for Research and Transfer, so, but it's not transfer for that. The transfer is very important in my research work every day, and it's something that we try to pass to the people in our group. And this means that I have to develop skills related with intellectual and industrial property. We have to develop skills to know how to publish, and this is particularly important for us because all of you are thinking about to get a paper, to publish a paper, how I can publish my work. You know how to You need to know how to do that, because sometimes it's not easy, and it's not just I want to do it, I write my paper and that's it. No, you will see that I had to think about many things before publishing. And of course, I should think about to develop a skill about, for example, establish public-private collaboration. So if I want to work with companies or to work with other research entities. And as I told you, we will talk a little bit about ethics skill, about observe ethical principles, about good and bad practice in research, about scientific integrity. Let me start with the role in research team. I made a comparison with the sport and while research team, I'm sorry, I choose the example of chemistry lab because it's the thing that I better know. So what I need to observe to work in a research team, the first thing is that I have to know the work that I have to do. If I don't know the work that I have to do, I cannot work in that team. The other thing is I had to develop working skills, so I had to work. And I had to, all of you know, you have to work very hard if you are working in research. You have to work as a team. As I said before, maybe in humanities the work is more individual, but in general, you have to work as a team. And that means that you are not alone working in that. And you have to think that there is more people involved in the same goal that you are. And you have to be able to communicate with the rest of the people in your team. So many of the problems that appears in a research team are because there is not a good communication between the members of the team. That is very important. More things. It should be very nice if there is a good feeling between the different components of the research team. It is important that all of us think that we have the same objectives. If inside the team we have different objectives, probably the result is not going to be very, very good. The other important thing is that if we are part of a team, inside that team, every member has to have a role. And there is different roles, and all of them are important. But it's important to know what is my role inside the team. And in the same way, it's important to establish responsibilities from the beginning. So anyone has to know what is his responsibility inside the team. So, and that puts us in the thing that I said before. So, to be a leader is the same that to be a boss? No. So, in fact, if you are working in research, you never has to be a boss. You always has to be a leader, and it doesn't mind if you are the principal investigator or you are a member of the research team. So you have to be a leader, and that means that you have to work thinking in the rest of the people that are working with you, right? So you have to work hands to hand with your co-workers, and not just think that you are the person that gives instructions and all the rest of the people has to do the job. If something fails, the problem is of other and never was my fault. So this is a team, as I told you, and we had to work all together. And this is important, just to prevent situations like this, where we are talking different language, we are fighting for different objectives, and if you do that, I'm sure that the research is not going to be good in any way. So different thing. Research skill about transfer, about intellectual and industrial property. I don't know if all of you know the difference about this, but one thing that is very important if you are thinking in transfer your research result, many times is how to protect your results. protect the result that you are getting is very important, or could be very important in many situations. And there is different types of protection. We can talk about intellectual property, or we can talk about industrial property. Many people, and we see this in the doctoral school many times, think that intellectual property is the same than industrial property, and are things completely different. I will try to tell you now. We can protect a brand, not only research result, but we can protect the brand, we can protect industrial design, and there is other types of protection that I don't have time to go inside in this moment. What are the differences between industrial property and intellectual property? But the industrial property protects creation that are related to industry, or that are going or could have some application in the industry and could have some economic value in the exploitation. So usually the most usual instrument to protect industrial property are the patents. But what about intellectual property? Usually intellectual property is reserved to protection of works that reflect the author's creativity. We are talking more about intellectual property when I am the author of a book or a song or something like that. And in that case, you don't have an industrial protection, but you have also some kind of protection that is what we call copyright. So, let me tell very briefly about this, about intellectual property, things that you need to know. In the case of intellectual property, it's not necessary to register because the work, it is protected by the mere fact of its creation. So just because you are the creator of that work, you are the owner of the intellectual property of that research. But even with that, there is advantage of register your intellectual property. What advantage you can find? The proof that you are the creator of that work, the publicity that you can get with that register, and is also very advisable to indicate that the rights are reserved and add the symbol of the copyright. How long stands the protection of the intellectual property? The protection of the intellectual property starts in the same moment of the creation. And in general, the exploitation rights are 70 years after the death of the author. And it is important. If you take a look to people that register and protect their intellectual property, you will see that many of these people, even many years after their death, they are earning a lot of money with the protection of the intellectual property. So this is not a minor issue. So if you create something that can be protected with intellectual property, maybe you should think about to do it, right? Because you never know, but sometimes can give you a lot of benefits in the future. What about the industrial property? The industrial property gives you a title of protection. Usually, we have different instruments to industrial property protection. The most usual, as I told you, are the patents, but we have also utility models, industrial design, brands, etc. Things that are important about patents. If you want to patent a work, you need 3 requirements. First one is the novelty, so the invention that you want to patent has not to be included in the state of the art. You need to have inventive step, so that means that your work is not obvious for an expert on the subject that you are working with. And the third one is that the result that you want to patent has to have an industrial application. So you need these three requirements. If some of these requirements fails, probably the patent office is not going to give you the patent title for your result. There is a fourth requirement that is not really included in the other three, but this is also completely necessary, is that when you write the patent, the description of this document has to be sufficient, to allow that an expert in that field can reproduce the result that you want to protect. And what are important patents? Basically for two functions. The first one is the legal protection. The patent is a title of ownership, and this gives you temporary monopoly of exploitation of that results. That is very important if you want to transfer your result to an industry. And the other one is dissemination. So the patent is in a database, and many people can go to see these patents. So that means that this is a technological information document. In this case, in the case of the patent, the duration of the protection is 20 years from the moment that you present your patent application. Other of the skill that I think that is important that you know, and that we see that many people, particularly PhD students, doesn't know very well, is open science. What means open science, and how this can affect to you? So open science is a new concept. Probably some of you are thinking or hearing first the open access. And you have to think about, I had to publish in open access. Open science is something more than open access. Open science means that your result must be published in open access, but your data has to be also open, and all the process has to be open. So that means that we have to be ready to put in an open format every step that I give in the publication process. Probably, I'm not going to go deeply in this. Probably, I don't know, some of you here before about green open access, gold open access. Do you know what this means? Okay, all of you? No? Okay, so maybe some of you know it, or no. And we will understand it a little bit better later. Green open access means that some journal allows you to open your paper, or open to publication, but just in the format that they require. For example, the preprint, some journal allows you to put in an open repository a postprint, but you don't see open the original paper that is published in the journal. The gold open access is something that probably many of you know, is that I pay to a journal to publish in an open way. And then my paper is published and is open to everyone that wants to read it. There is other ways. There are, for example, the diamond open access. So it's quite complicated. There is some instruments that the journals use in general to get that we pay more for publishing. So that's, don't forget that all of this is also a big deal for editorials and journals. But, okay, so that's very, very good, but I had to do something about it. So that is something that has to worry to all of you. The answer, I'm sorry, the answer is yes. That is important, and it's important that you know about this. Why is important? So this is, I translate in yellow the some parts of the university system law in Spain. And this law, that, at least in Spain, all of us had to observe, say that teaching and research staff must deposit a copy of the final version accepted for publication and the data associated with it in an open access institutional or thematic repository. And this is very important, simultaneously with the publication date. So this means all of you are obliged to publish in an open way your result, but not to publish in an open, using the old open access system, just to pay 3,000 euros for publish a paper in a journal. You have to publish your paper in an institutional repository. When you publish in a journal, this is not an institutional repository. You have to do an extra work. You have to put your work in the institutional repository. And it's very important, not only the paper, also the data associated with it. And more important, you have to do it simultaneously with the publication date. So you have to do it from the first moment. And this is law, and we have to observe it. And the law say more things, but I will start a little bit about data. How I need to publish my data in open way. I had to use what or must follow what are called the FAIR principles. So they should be fundable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. These characteristics should be observed in all cases that I working with data. And this is very important because if you are going to apply for a research project, now I think that any call that you can think about will tell you at the end, so you can write a very nice project, the best project in the world for you, with the best ideas. But at the end they say, how are you going to deal with your paper and your data? And if you don't answer in a right way to that question, it doesn't matter what you say at the beginning. You are not going to get funding for your project. So this is very important. And for that people of the University of Alcalá, for that people of Spain, the law say that the state and regional quality agencies will include open accessibility among their evaluation criteria and requirements. So that means that you are going to be evaluated taking in consideration this open accessibility requirements. So that's very important for you. So that means that you need to develop this skill also. And it's not only the law of the university system. Our state plan for scientific and technical research say basically the same. And the law of science of Spain, that is quite recent, it's just 2 years, was published 2 years ago, say basically the same. We are obliged to publish it or to observe the open science principles in our work. And not only in Spain. The European Commission said exactly the same. We need to use open science criteria. We need to publish in open repositories our data, and we have to do it from the same moment that we produce that result. So this is quite complicated. I confess that it's very complicated for me too. So we have to change our mentality. I started to work when I was doing my thesis. I didn't need to care about this. I just write my paper, send the paper. If the journal say, okay, good, it say no, okay, I had to try again. So nothing else to worry about. But now we have to be worried about all the things that I told you. The good news is that we had people that can help us with this process. In particular, the libraries. I put you here the 2 institutional repositories that we have in our library to publish in the open way our papers and our data. For paper, we have the BUA repository, and for data, we have the e-Cienciadatos, that is a repository from the Madroño Consortium, that is a consortium where are all the universities of Madrid, except the Universidad Complutense. The rest of the university are inside this consortium. So if you have a paper and you want to put your paper in an institutional repository, you can connect with the library and they will help you to do this. But you have to do it. This is important because, for example, we have some case where the government asks us to give back all the money of a project that was funded at the beginning just because the results were not published in the open way. So it's as important as that. You can be obliged to return all the money if you don't observe these principles. Okay, so and in the last part of my talk, I will talk a little bit about ethics and scientific integrity. So I put here at the beginning some concepts about scientific integrity that has been established by CRUE. CRUE is the commission or the association of all of Spanish universities. They have a document that says us what we have to do about ethics, about scientific integrity. I don't want to take much time in this, but they, as you will see, they talk about to observe scientific integrity in the object of our research, in the methodology that we are using, in the way that we record the data and the result, in the dissemination of our result, in the authorship, and I will stop just a moment in this part a little bit later. Also, how to manage our resources, how promote responsible research, how to transfer our result, how to make the evaluation, etc. So these are things that they say us that we have to observe. And for this, in the university, in our university, you go to the web page. Let me ask one question to the people of the University de Alcalá is here. Who of you know or has visited the web page of the Research Ethical Committee and have read the good and bad practice proposed by the university? Just one. Just one, but it's something that will be important that all of you has to do. So that is why at the beginning I say that you have to forget about, or not forget about your project. So sorry, I don't want to say that. You have to be focused in your project, but you need to remove the idea that just be focused in your project is enough to do research. You have to do much more things, and you have to develop much more skill. So in this good research practice that you should follow, particularly you students of the University of Alcalá, you should follow this good practice. If not, someone can tell you something about that. So the first one is that the researcher must be guided by principle of honesty, truthfulness, objectivity, rigor, and exhaustiveness. You must make a responsible use of the resources. You have to respect the work of others, recognizing in the literature and citing the work that others have done. You have to be honest with the work of those who have participated in the research. I can tell you that now, in the Research of Ethics Committee of the University of Alcalá, we have two serious problems about this, about people that maybe didn't recognize in the proper way the work that others made. And this is very important, and that can give you important problems in the future. You have to respect the intellectual and the industrial property. You have to observe the regulation and protocols. Important, if the research that you are doing involves human subjects, you need to know that you have the obligation of confidentiality of their personal information. And also, you should be aware that maybe you need the approval of a research ethics committee before start your research. So, well, here there is also the same way that we describe 12 good practice, we also describe 12 bad practice that you can imagine. That is when you don't do what you have to do in the good practice. So I'm not going to repeat about this. Let me again do a question to the people of the University de Alcalá is here. Who of you knows the Research Ethics Committee? Okay, so it's about 10. Well, and the rest of the people that doesn't know the Research Ethics Committee are sure that the research that you are doing doesn't need the approval of the Research Ethics Committee? Because if you're not sure, you maybe can be in a problem. So we have several problems of people that say, yes, I send my work to a journal for publishing, but the journal is asking me the approval of the Research Ethics Committee. And they say, please, give me the approval. And I can say you the answer that you are going to receive from the Research Ethics Committee. If you perform the research, we cannot approve anything. The research is done. So the Research Ethics Committee always gives the approval before the research starts. If you start your research, any Research Ethics Committee is going to approve you anything. So that is important. You have to make this question before. My work has to pass for Research Ethics Committee? If the answer is no, nothing, so you don't have to worry about this. But if you're not sure about the answer, maybe go inside the web page or ask to someone of the committee just to be sure that your work has not to be passed through this committee. In your case, I put this. The PhD thesis has to pass through a Research Ethics Committee. The answer is yes. If the PhD theses are considered a research project, so that means that as any other research project, if your research has ethical aspect that should be evaluated by the committee, you need the approval of the ethical committee. Well, here now in the university, probably you don't have to worry too much about this, because now from the doctoral school, we ask you when you are presenting the research project for your thesis, are you needing the approval of a Research Ethics Committee? So that's a way in which we want to force you to think about if you need it or not. So, not only you and your directors and tutors of the thesis, because many times it's not only that the PhD student doesn't know what they have to do with these issues, it's just that the directors neither knows what they have to do. let me just finish with this part, the authorship. So there is some condition that must be met to consider the authorship of a person in a paper. First one, that the contribution of this person be substantial. The other one is that this person write the article or critically revise for intellectual relevant aspect, or also if this person give the final approval of the version. If you are in some of those items, maybe, not sure, you have to be between the authors of the paper. And you have to be careful with the plagiarism. I know that probably this is something that you hear talk a lot about that, and I'm not very worried about the two first types of plagiarism, because I am pretty sure that any of you are going to do that. But I am a little bit worried about the last two. The accidental plagiarism is because sometimes you are let's say having not a good practice without any bad intention, just because maybe you forget just to cite the work of others, or just to include the site in the reference list. Well, it is important, but maybe it's not very bad because it's not your intention. But I'm worried about the last one, the self-plagiarism. And I am worried because I have some problem of this also in our doctoral school, and I wanted to talk with you. We saw that we are obliged to put in an institutional repository all of our publications. Our law about PhD thesis say that all the thesis has to be published in the institutional repository of the university. And I have to be careful with that, because if I read my thesis, I defend my thesis, and I publish my thesis in the institutional repository, that work is already published. So if I try to send that work to a journal, the journal is going to say me, I cannot publish this because it's already published. So you understand me? Yeah? And that is important. So that is why probably all the universities and all the libraries have the possibility to make an embargo. I put my thesis in the institutional repository, but it's not going to be open to the public until 2 years. And so I have 2 years to publish my work, and I don't have to worry about of the publication in the institutional repository. So be careful with that, because we have some problem. So the PhD student and the directors, again, it's not only responsibility of the PhD student, didn't take care of this. They put the thesis in the institutional repository, and you have to know that if you do that, your work is published, right? It's published, and you cannot publish it again in any other. And that's it. I hope that this talk could be useful for you. I wanted to take your attention to some issues that I observe every day that maybe are not very well known by particularly PhD students. So issues, as I told you, mainly related with transfer, with publication, with ethics, and I think that it's important that you develop all those skills, because are going to be crucial and very important in your research work. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if you have any question or...
I have a question regarding that. For example, if your paper is accepted to be published, so you need to publish into the kind of the institutional database.
Repository.
So if there's some conflict with the copyright from the journal and the thing we do, that's, yes, it's my concern.
Yeah, so there is different ways. So that is the green open access, the gold open access. So if you send your work to a journal, when you want to put your work in the institutional repository, there is an application that asks to the journal what is the format of your article that can be published in the institutional repository. Some journals say that you can publish the preprint of the article after 6 months or after 12 months. Others say that you can load the postprint, or even some journals say you put the original paper. So any journal has a different policy. What the law says is that you have to put your publication in the institutional repository. But if the journal has a policy, for example, that paper cannot be opened until 12 months later, so your paper is in the repository and will be accessible to the people 12 months later. So it is possible both things, that you put your paper in the repository, and this has to be also in agreement with the policy of the journals. Yeah, but you can do it, you can do it.
Thank you very much.
Hi. If our thesis is I think it's called compendium of articles, you must put them in the repositories to present the thesis or not?
Yeah, sure. It's a very good question, because we work during a long time trying to solve this problem. So I tell you how we deal with this in the University of Alcalá. So if the thesis is for compendium, we ask to our PhD students that they include the articles in an annex at the end of the thesis. And then what we do is we put in the repository the thesis without the annex. So we cap the annex with the articles. In the text of the thesis, we say them that they had to include the DOI and the reference to find the article, but then the articles are not in the repository. They are in an annex that we lead out. But at least our law here in Spain oblige that all the thesis has to be in the institutional repository. All, I didn't talk about this, except those theses that have protected content, so they are confidential, but you need to declare that your thesis is confidential. And in that case, you don't have to put your thesis in the repository. In other cases, you have to do it.
Hello, I'm EUGLOH from University of Novi Sad, Serbia, and first of all, I want to thank you for this presentation. I think it was really helpful. And I have a hopefully not unethical question, but I'm sure other people will also understand this. So it was really interesting to hear about open science and ethical research. Let's say, for example, that sometimes I'm not able to access any kind of library, or I'm not in the institution that I'm working in. And I'm working, for example, from here in Alcalá, and I'm in a hotel right now. And I want to do my research. I search for a paper or a publication that I want to work with. And I see that it's only available if I pay 50 to 100 euros for 10 pages. Now, I don't want to mention any websites that are available so that I can access this paper for free. But my question is simply to you as a professor, how ethical do you think these websites are if we are talking about open science? And I, as a researcher, would like my research projects to be available for everyone all the time, but it's not possible always. So my question is really just, how ethical do you think it is in research?
Well, one important question I didn't say about that is, you are obliged to publish it in open science only if your research has been supported with public funds, right? If you conduct your research with private funds, you are not obliged to do that. The other way is, even if you are not in a university, you can find some institutional or thematic repository where you can send your work. I agree with you. So I told you, for example, now in Spain, I know the case of Spain, we are fighting with the editorials because they want that we pay every year more money to read and to publish. So we are so I consider fair that we pay something to publish, because they have also expenses to edit journals and things. But probably the price that they are asking for it is too high. And in many cases, you don't have a way to do it. We have that problem here. So now in Spain, from 4 years ago, we signed some agreements with the editorials, and we paid an amount of money, and we have, with that money, we can publish a number of articles in open way. And well, that's good, but what happens if we have, for example, 20 articles? What happened with the person that writes the 21? And we don't have money. So some people say, okay, you can pay that money from your research project. But what happens if you don't have research project? So that's, I agree with you, that's a problem. And sometimes it's very difficult to solve, because for one side, the institution doesn't have more money to fund more publication. If you don't have a research project where you can charge those costs, it's difficult. It's difficult. You are completely right. So that's why I told before that when I was doing the PhD thesis, I didn't care about this, because I just, well, you can do one thing, that's true. But the problem is that now all of us are used that if I want to look for an article, I just type the title and I get the article immediately in my computer, right? So what happens is I don't have this agreement with the editorials. Probably was the situation that I have several years ago, when I need an article, I had to write to my library and say, I need this article, and probably after 2 or 3 weeks, I receive the article, a photocopy of the article in my site. You are right, that is a problem. So I agree that the results should be open, but it's true that this is now a business for many people. And we are just the people who work, and others the people who make the money with our work. Yeah, you are right. Okay. So Irene, no sé si we finish this session here or.
Now we have the coffee break. Thank you, Javier.
Okay.